that I mentioned in there. There used to be the gazebo in a previous administration. I think Plain was even going to try to contribute money toward the stage that was going to be built when the gazebo was torn down, but it turned out to be way too much money, the estimate we got. But the idea was good, to have a stage that's low to the ground and be used for multiple purposes. So I'd like you to at least consider that when you're thinking about recreational spaces. And the other thing that I noticed when I was looking at the Baltimore, Maryland, Harlem Park, Pocket Park, one thing that they used in there, I think it's in lieu of benches, where they just put big rocks so people could sit on rocks. Maybe I'm wrong, maybe they've updated it, but I thought that's really low maintenance, a big rock. You know, we put benches up and things happen, but that's my other suggestion, is think about big rocks. It's very controversial, big rocks, but yeah, so thank you. And I was reading the list and seeing all the work that was done on the dam down there, so it's really great to see some things happening there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, moving on to new business. The first order of business here is the planning, our planning retreat date and topics. We're looking at September 2025, so next month sometime. For this, I can, City Manager Hawthorne, do you want to speak to it, or we can both speak to it, or?
Yeah, we can.
I know we have some emails going about it as well, so everybody's kind of tuned in. But.
We can tag team here,
Okay.
since we've at least talked about a couple of major topics. And if you've had a chance to read or start reading the strategic performance report, I didn't highlight a section, but I did interweave kind of some of the thoughts that I hope you will consider. And there are two or three areas that I want to just give you my perspective, both on topics and participation, and the importance of a session such as this as it leads into our new budgeting cycle. And the timing is very good when you consider something in September, and then we will be starting to develop the budget over the course of the remainder of the fiscal year. But I started a topic of sustainable development in the last report, and I hope you appreciate the imagery on page 1 of the strategic performance report. And when I saw it, I thought it so captured Pine Lake, but I want to explain to you what I saw. So I see Pine Lake as green, and that certainly is the green, but we are green just outside of one of the major cities in America, and so it defines us. But the emphasis on the uniqueness of Pine Lake, I think it so lends the opportunity to capitalize on one of the things that's going to ensure sustainability, and that is economic development. And also last month I provided links, and I know that you were all familiar with these plans. Not so me before I started to write these articles. But the 3 long-term plans that we have on record, and I'm on page 2 of my report, the wetlands management strategy, which is more recently dated and is less of a formal plan, but it captures so much of your discussion back in 2024 with your, at the time, contracted Public Works Supervisor, Mr. Kendrick, who has since become an official member of the team. And in some ways, without question, it is and has been a top priority of this council. And I think this is an example of, even without a formal plan, the discussions and the work that is going on is something that is actively moving ahead for the sustainability of this community. The other two that I included in the way that they're listed in even the website, the Economic Development Plan and the Comprehensive Plan. And this is just my opinion, and I may get part of this wrong, but I think they've had the misfortune of being more on the shelf plans, and certainly with and not because of lack of effort in setting the policy of past councils. And I kind of at least made a connection to when the Economic Development Plan, also known as the Rockbridge Road Commercial Corridor Economic Development Vision and Plans, the actual title. The timing of it was unfortunate. 2019, a year later, COVID hit, and as we know, that disrupted across the globe many things. But I have started to study this plan because one of my philosophies as a manager has long been plans shouldn't be done and sit on a shelf. And more often than not, that is the case. And so as I've started to really familiarize myself with this report, and I want to read the vision statement, and that's as far as I'm going to go today, but this vision statement is powerful, but the report encompasses so much more goals and activities and strategies for implementing. But here's the vision statement, and I read this largely for the benefit of our public. The Rockbridge Road corridor in Pine Lake will be a vibrant commercial district with a unique atmosphere that is welcoming to everyone and that serves as a departure from the chronic sameness of the typical American commercial landscape. That is so Pine Lake. In the second sentence, the Rockbridge Road corridor will be a safe and thriving commercial area consisting of a mosaic of small businesses in a setting that reflects Pine Lake's passion for the environment and the arts, while also celebrating the tremendous ethnic diversity in and around Pine Lake. That may not be the vision 5 years later, but I don't think we will be that far off. And these are the kind of discussions that I think are important to have at your next retreat. It's one topic, because it should fuel the budget. And after sitting for 5 years, we don't have any time to waste, particularly when we've got a grassroots effort that has been put together that paves the way. And economic development is something that is largely market driven. But if it is to be done right, there should be a plan that drives to the journey. And it shouldn't be left up to third-party participants, as important as they are, such as developers. In some ways, and even as you look at this vision statement, particularly the first sentence, is what investment is the Pine Lake government going to put into the Rockbridge Road corridor? And I would tell you now, we're far and away from even starting to live up to it. Because in my humble opinion, and I'm not being critical, but there's nothing that impressive about Rockbridge Road to me, period. And so when you get to Pine Lake, if the rest of Rockbridge Road never improves, you should know that you have just passed through a place that is different and unique. And you shouldn't have to drive into the residential areas to get it. We should get some feel for it, and all of our visitors that pass through. And so it's important to me that hopefully one of your topics will allow us to dive deep into what we've already got. I hope we don't have to start from scratch. And then let's start to act. One of the things that I told you when I came through interviewing was I consider myself to be, as a manager, a planner, and a doer. So Pine Lake has done some good work, and it is time to move on some of those things. I think the comprehensive plan mirrors the discussion, and I'm not going to repeat, but it is probably, in many places, and probably has been the case for Pine Lake, more of a legal requirement. That every 5 years we go through it and it has to be updated. But do we necessarily follow it? And we've also done very basic, basically the minimum of what is required. However, when you look at it in tandem with other work, such as the Economic Development Plan, or even what we're doing around one of our most important assets, the lake and surrounding areas, then you start to bring it all together. So we may have a basic comprehensive plan that does need to be updated, but in companionship with other efforts that this council has started to move ahead on, we've got a lot to be excited about. And so one of the items on your agenda, in addition to the upcoming retreat, is a question of if we continue with the entity that has done the last couple of comprehensive plans, namely ARC. They have actually recommended that we consider going out and contracting with the consultant, primarily to move beyond what they will provide, and that is the basic service and the basic requirements. But it is free, and we do have a lot on our table. But these two long-term plans, coupled together as what we've got now, I think should help lead the discussion, at least on this major topic of what I call sustainable development, that will incorporate certainly economic development with an emphasis, and then other land use and considerations that have been factored in. But this week, I do need to get back with ARC on the council's inclination. I don't think we need a formal vote, but some consensus In talking with the mayor, I think we at least have reached consensus for where we are and everything that's on the plate, that we meet this legal obligation with continuing with ARC to put together our next plan. And so the other topic that is also covered in the strategic performance report, and I'm going through as much as I can to at least plant these couple of major topics, and as has been alluded to already, and this is unfortunate, but it did allow us to realize that we're trying to stay ahead of major issues that we need to formalize, and that is the topic of an emergency operations plan. And it was a very interesting development as Council Member Goldberg over the weekend after the tragedy at the CDC Emory University campus, that we had a council member who was for some number of hours a victim of not knowing exactly what was going on, in effect an active shooter circumstance. And one of the first things that he asked the council over the weekend was that we devote some time. And it just so happens, and actually this topic is one that the mayor had asked me to put on the agenda for discussion. So for whatever reason, it all came together in different ways. So we don't have an official City of Pine Lake emergency operations plan. But I will tell you that one of the things that police chief has shared with me is something that she has been working with, I'm sure with her staff, is a very comprehensive, I call it SOP, standard operating procedures. And from what I gather, it's written largely for her law enforcement operations, and it's not meant to take the place of an emergency operations plan. But given that that is one of the hats that she wears, she is very conscious of this need, and I think we're all committed to bringing forth a formal plan for approval by the City Council that hopefully will be fueled by your discussions and thoughts at the planning retreat as well. And that leads me, and I'm going to stop at kind of those two topics because I'm sure you all will have other topics that you want to talk about, but captured in mind is also whatever other issues that help to prepare us for the budgeting process that will be just a few weeks following. Mm-hmm. But we had talked about at the last retreat staff's participation, and I told you back then that my experience and my preference is that staff be in the room, not necessarily as participants, but they should be there, I believe, and I'm talking about the directors, the city clerk or acting city clerk is normally there for the recording, but I'm highly recommending that that the police chief and the public works director be there at a minimum to listen and hear directly whatever the discussions may be. And just these two that I've at least, in conjunction with my discussions with the mayor, put on the table, I think that is more important than ever for at least one of your sessions in a year, so for your consideration. There is a lot more that I have to say throughout this meeting. I think the topics that staff has written and some others that I want to get into, we will literally be going through the strategic performance report at least by the time that we get to that part of the agenda, to the extent that we haven't already covered it in the other items listed on the agenda. But we need to really almost go through this page by page, and so each of those directors that I just mentioned will be making some presentations to you today about issues that they have written in SBR in particular. So that's kind of my kickoff, Mayor, on the on thoughts on the upcoming retreat, and so topics and dates and participants are the three issues that I need some feedback on.
Great, thank you. You have my buy-in, obviously, on the Sustainable Development Plan and the Emergency Operations Plan. I think those are very high priorities. It was already, the emergency plan was already on the list that Mr. Hawthorne and I had been discussing starting in like June, just thinking of heading into hurricane season. And Helene, we were blessed in Atlanta that it made a turn and didn't affect us in the way that it did, obviously, in Western North Carolina and Eastern Tennessee. But that very easily could have been us, and it could have been very tragic with 7 million people here in the Atlanta metro area. So I was already thinking about that, and then with the active shooter situation recently, and Councilmember Goldberg, there's so much that that an emergency operations plan will help us cover, whether it's weather events, pandemics, violence, all the things. A big piece of it is who's responsible for what types of communication, how do we get the words out, how do we, what do we offer to the residents in terms of safety, and I mean, there's so much that goes into that, so I really look forward to discussing that. And I would just say, if you have other topics that you would like to add to that, I think we could do that by email. If something comes to mind, if you want to email, then we can kind of organize that into an agenda to circulate. As far as the staff attending, I'm fully in agreement with City Manager Hawthorne. That has historically been the process. And I think that it is extremely valuable to the city, especially as they are the folks that are responsible for executing the, directives of the legislative body. So, and then finally, in terms of dates, I propose what's worked well. The last few that we've done is like a Friday or a Monday. I think Friday has been preferable. I think the last 3 that we've done have been on a Friday during the work week, which is good for staff. So I'd like to look at some options for that.
Madam Mayor, could I
Yeah.
ask a question for
Please.
Mr. Hawthorne and all of us? Would it be helpful to have the new council members, because this diocese is going to change by half?
We won't know who they are because the election's not until November.
Right, so could we not push this back?
They'll be sworn in January, so we will have a spring one. Typically, we have it twice a year, but I think this one with this elected body is going to be really important because we have our budgeting cycle coming up. So that'll all happen before the new elected officials are in.
When Jeff and Councilmember Goldberg and I came on, we were able to join one of the meetings, and it was
open to the public
very helpful.
too. Yeah.
So if we know who is running, at least,
Mhm.
can we invite them to sit and listen?
Yeah.
Okay, I think that'd be a good idea.
Um,
Also, could we do it not in September, because I'm out of town every weekend other than the 13th?
Okay.
Or could we do it during the week?
Yeah, as a Friday, including out of town.
Yeah.
I'm out of town the 6th through the 16th of September.
Okay.
I'm out of town, 6th and 7th and the 20th and the 21st
Okay.
September.
Would the beginning of October be allowable, or do we need to stick to September?
City manager, do you, in terms of how it correlates with the budgeting cycle, what happens if we push it into October?
I think the earlier the better, and so if we're going to do October, I would certainly hope that we could do it the first half of October.
Would Friday, October 10th be a possibility?
It's good for me.
I have a medical procedure that day.
Oh, okay. Alternatively,
3rd is good for me, and
the 3rd is good, okay. I have a thing on that.
you said
afternoon.
Mondays too, if we do a Monday maybe?
How does that work with the staff schedule Mondays?
Monday's a check day, so it tends to be pretty airtight
Okay.
for staff.
Okay. Are there other days of the week aside from Fridays that work well for staff?
Well, starting in October, Thursdays would be fine for everybody except the court clerk.
Okay, and what about Wednesdays? How do Wednesdays look for y'all?
It's variable, but I mean, with enough advance notice,
With
I think we
planning.
can make it happen.
The only 2 days during the work week that I can do Monday, Wednesday, or Friday, but I have Tuesdays and Thursdays are slammed every week with meetings that are standing for me.
Could we do a Wednesday in September?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Wednesday
I think
in
we could do
September
that.
would work.
What if we did Wednesday, September 17th?
Would that work for you, Jean? Are you still gonna be out of town, cause you just get back the 16th,
Well, I'm
right?
coming back the night of the 16th. I guess
Yeah,
I
that's
could,
fine.
but I'd rather not.
Yeah.
Okay. Wednesday, September 10th,
September.
24th, maybe?
24th,
that vote?
maybe?
24th is good for me.
I,
No,
I could probably do that. I don't need to go to this
Did you
thing.
say 10th of September?
24th of September.
24th. Yeah, I could do the 24th. Let's see.
how's that look for everyone else?
Yeah,
24th,
24th is okay with me.
Okay,
Jeff? Good
just
for you?
deep
I am
6 my
good.
dentist, it'll be okay.
okay,
It's good for me.
okay. Wednesday, September 24th. Can we do earliest 8:30?
8:30?
Yeah, and I would probably need to end by like 4 at the latest. If that works, maybe like 8:30 to 3:30 or something for tossing that out there as an option. I don't know if that's enough time.
That's what we did at the last one. I think we ended by 3 or 3:30.
Yeah,
Okay,
we
perfect.
ended by 3:30.
Yeah. Okay, so why don't we do 8:30 to 3:30, Wednesday, September 24th? Okay, this is gonna be council retreat. Bless you. Wednesday, September 24th, 8:30. Okay, and we'll figure out the details.
8:30.
Soon. All right, let's move on to our next topic, shall we? Proposed tax relief program, update about the RFP to the Carl Vinson Institute.
So I've had a busy week working with representatives of Carl Vinson Institute of Government, University of Georgia. Let me first give a quick update. One of their teams came out and over the course of this afternoon, in a couple of sessions, met with all of the employees and proceeding on our classification and pay study. everything that has happened to date has been kind of internally generated data that they needed to get started. But now we're at the phase of employees actually participating and really focused on more of the classification part of the study at this point. So I thought we had two very good sessions this afternoon. Yesterday, I did meet with another division of the Institute, and both of these groups, I have to tell you, they are very, very busy. But I met with Rex, can't think of his last name, but he has this particular research division, and they are on it. I had asked them to try and have us a proposal for the work session, which wasn't possible. They had some questions that we met on yesterday, and he has told me that he's going to do everything that he can to have us a proposal in the next couple of weeks. So hopefully in time enough for our August regular meeting for potential action by council. He didn't make the promise, but I've been pressing them over the last few weeks. So I'm feeling pretty good about at least having their response. And he went over with me somewhat the model that they use. So this type of study is not unfamiliar to them. So
Thank
unless
you.
there are questions or comments, that's kind of where we are.
Great. Thank you for the update, City Manager.
Question?
Yeah.
Do we have any idea when, for a deliverable from them?
In the next couple of weeks.
Okay.
That's what I was speaking of, the actual formal
Proposal.
response from
Okay.
them.
Great.
That should be ready for action once we have it.
Okay.
Okay, the next item here, the comprehensive plan update. So as the city manager mentioned, it's time. ARC reached out to us and offered that we could engage a consultant to do our comprehensive plan, which would be paid, or they could do it like they have done the past few. I've participated in the last 2 comprehensive planning processes, as have both Councilmember Woods and Councilmember Bordeaux. I spoke with the city manager and told him that it was a great process. I don't think there was any reason to go outside of that, especially since it's not something we budgeted for and we've got all the expenses, but we wanted to just clarify with y'all first and see if you're on board with that, and then.
Do we have any idea what the cost would be for an independent or different, and are they recommending someone to do it? Or
They are willing to do it, but it's no charge when the Atlanta Regional Commission does it. My experience with it would depend on what elements that you were interested in expanding. So if you look on page 5 of the strategic performance report, on that first column under plan elements, that lists at least kind of the recommended elements. It could certainly be a greater list that the Department of Community Affairs recommends, some of these being actually required as shown on the second. I think what we have done and what we would get from the Atlanta Regional Commission would be all 3 of those that are, or all 4 of those first ones that are listed: community goals, needs and opportunities, community work program, broadband service element. Now on the capital improvements element, we're going to do that. Mr. Kendrick has already presented to you our first long-term 5-year, 6 years, he refers to it, capital improvement program. We will have a formal document with narrative for our public to understand another consideration for our upcoming retreat, as you think about topics. It will be renamed Community Investment Plan, so that shows you just how important this is, and it should have a direct tie to upcoming funding of the budget, but also over kind of that long term. So that's not anything that I'm concerned about that we're not going to be addressing. We talked about the economic development element that's not currently in our comprehensive plan, but I think what you all in past councils have done, and that we probably at least need to update it. So I don't think this is an element that is unaddressed by the city. The land use element is included in the basic study, and then these other two, at least going by the elements that the state recommends, transportation and housing, and then the criteria where those are considered more important. So I don't see where there's something that we would get from an outside consultant that we're not kind of already covering or haven't covered in the past or won't be covering in the near future. But it's up to council if you want to
And
want
this
to
is,
do an RFP, and I think it would kind of draw out the process because we would have to go through a process of selection.
this is the actual comprehensive plan, not the update of the last one? Or is this just the update?
It's considered an update
It's just considered an update, then I think
after 5
that
years.
makes sense. But I will share with you that I was very involved in that last one. In my opinion, it was check the boxes, and it was not comprehensive. And I think we could change that by pushing harder and doing more ourselves. I don't think we did a lot, but the process that we went, that they kind of had laid out was not detailed and not, but we knew we had to get it done, we had to turn it in, and that's what we did. And they, you know, I mean, it's not that there's anything wrong with it, and it's a very nice looking report,
Okay.
but it's just that I don't think, that's
Yeah.
one reason why we didn't go, why it was a shelf report, because I don't think we ever really felt like this was representing what we were really after. So, but if it's just an update, there's no sense in
Understood.
spending more money for that. But consider when we do have to do this again. And again, I think it's certainly a lot of it was on us, but you get what you put into it. And I don't think there was a lot put into this one.
Yeah, I think some of that too, Gene, remember when we did it, it was over a Zoom because it was during COVID. And so a lot of things kind of slipped through because we weren't actually meeting. Like the first one, we had actually group sessions where we were working, putting information on the board, coming together as a group, versus the last one, we were just making our way through the COVID situation. So
Yeah, that was my
You're right,
experience as
that's-
well. The first
I'm-
one was really comprehensive. Had
Yeah,
a lot
it
of
was very
community
good.
meetings, had a lot of engagement.
Yeah, I remember that one. And
Yeah, that Allison.
It was, yeah, it was
led.
really different. So you're right, that's
Yeah.
probably a good reason. So
Yeah, that's
I'm fine with them doing it.
How do y'all feel?
I would agree. I think we should just update using ARC. I think next time around when we have an updated economic development plan, updated land use plan, you'll be in a much better position if you want to use a consultant at that point for help in how to execute.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Yeah.
Okay, so it sounds like we're all in agreement that we should move forward with ARC?
Yeah.
Okay, great, thank you. Next item on the agenda is our community investment project updates. Mr. Kendrick.
Good afternoon. Before I get started, I'd like to introduce our new employee, Mr. Eric Dickerson.
Hello.
Hi,
Vickerson?
Eric.
Dickerson, like
Dickerson.
yeah.
Welcome.
Eric comes
Glad
to
to
us.
have you.
Me too. So here he is. You'll see him around, you know, doing the things that need to get done. So help me welcome Eric.
Welcome, Eric.
Welcome, finally. Thank you for being here. Mhm. Thank you.
This is the project tracking sheet that
Mhm.
you see out on a monthly basis.
Thank you, sir.
And the second sheet is just follow along for ADA projects.
Mhm. Thank you.
And if you don't mind, some of my presentation kind of hits on the strategic report also, City Manager? Okay, thank you. So I'm pretty, like I said, I'm pretty sure you've all had an opportunity to look at the project update sheet. I'll go through the sheet and where it coincides with the strategic report, you know, and I'm pretty sure Councilmember Torrent, if you want to start with a question. Either one, I know.
If that's okay, yeah. So number one, the blacktop ramp up to the tennis court. That ramp, it's gonna be more than it is, right? Because it is
Ye-
not good right now.
Right, yeah, it was primarily put in, like as a temporary measure, because we were kind of in between where we were doing for the actual renovation of the tennis court, and just to give access, because people could still, you know, access the space and those types of things. That was just an easy lift for the first thing that we were doing. But yeah, we're gonna put a handrail there, and also, if we ever get around to some paving, it'll get transitioned a little bit better there. But it'll, you know, for right now, that ramp was just put there simply for to become handicap accessible for the use that it was prior to us transforming the space.
Okay. It's just if you were to get into a wheelchair and try to use that ramp, it's unserviceable.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, but it was better than not
Nothing.
having one.
Absolutely.
You know,
Yes, it is.
and I'd like y'all to keep in mind, you know, the context here, reasonable access. You know, that's all ADA requires us to do is reasonable access. Prior to that ramp being there, in the condition it is, there was no access for anybody with a disability in a chair. But now there is reasonable access to that space for someone in a chair.
Just knowing that it is going to be changed. You know, in the prior condition, someone in a wheelchair would say, oh no, I'm not gonna try that.
Mm-hmm.
In the existing condition, they might say, yeah, maybe I can do that and go up it, but it is so tight.
Well,
And I wonder if we are at more jeopardy of a wheelchair accident as it stands right now than we were before.
it is the specified width for ADA accommodation. It just kind of looks that way, you know. I understand that, you know, it kind of, you know, makes it, you know, a little trepidation there, but it actually is the specified width for ADA ramp.
Mhm.
It's minimal, but it is the actual width.
Okay.
Okay, continue, Mr. Kendrick.
Ma'am?
Go ahead and continue.
Okay, yeah, and while we're on the tennis court, so We're about 75% complete, but as I stated in the strategic report, we still need about 3 really good, fair days in order for them to complete the project. One of the things, other than, the rain is just, completely just washed out pretty much every day that they've had an opportunity. But it also limited them because of the tree cover only provided them with about 1 to 2 hours, depending on the day they were, that the court could be heated by sunlight in order to, the surface to be, cured and dried. So that's kind of why they've been, it's been at the point of stretching out. Hopefully today would have been a great day, but, when you kind of looking at the app and it's telling you you've got, 40, 50% chance of rain, you tend to not, invest in, coming out. But sometimes, I think later this week, we should have a better opportunity. But then long range, we're looking at a window in there where we might end up with a, tropical storm or something that's on the way. So, that's all we can ask them to do. Like I said, they told me they need about 3 solid days in order to finish the project, and then but otherwise the gate is locked, it's padlocked, no one can gain access to it. And we had gotten some additional questions that I think the majority of them were answered previously when we were debating, the merits of doing this project. We were talking about restroom access, parking, some of the things about how playtime would be scheduled and those types of things. And internally, we've had some discussions about those things. Those are gonna have to be some rules, policies that are gonna be adopted by the council once we, and I think we'll be ready to put those out at the next meeting. But also, some of this was in conjunction with the green space recreation plan, also making sure that, some of the, actual rules that were kind of consistent, all over the area where other pickleball players are playing and those types of things. We also wanted to be mindful of, ordinances here in the, dusk to dawn playing or the limited times. We chose, looking at, like I say, restroom access, time of day, those types of things, whether we're gonna provide outdoor lighting, all that type of thing, how the law enforcement would interact with the playtime and those types of things, more especially with, parking considerations and how it impacted the residents in that area. So the chief and I, and we started pulling in the city attorney to make sure that when we bring those back to you, I think at the next work session, we'll have a little bit clearer path on which way we're gonna go on some decision-making time at that point.
Great, thank you.
Okay, so I'll just go back to the sheet now. We're at the Old City Courthouse, Old City Hall, excuse me. We're about, I would say, at this point, 100% complete. We've transferred the court services there. Public Works Administration is working out of that building. I know for a fact that she started receiving visitors or clients at that location. I think that's working well for her. I let Stephanie speak for it. We're still, kind of, making it through the building, getting it lived in and those types of things. But I think pretty much everybody's kind of satisfied with the workspace at this point. The ADA compliance program, I've given you the sheet. Number 1, we just talked about the ramp up at the tennis court entrance, and so I spoke to the condition and what we're going to do there. The Western Wetlands Trail has not been maintained with crush and run. As I said before, we don't put crush and run on a trail not to be able to have wheelchair access. It doesn't work. What we're using or going to be using is granite sand, but we have to put that in, and it's got to be compacted. So we're working, to finish up that. The accessible route along the playground and the picnic area, right now the ramp will be going in there that allow access for wheelchair-bound persons to be able to roll that path and access the playground area if need be. The ramp that's going to the beach, it is being worked on as we speak, if you go by there now. Number 5, we talked about having access to the gathering area to the right of the beach house. That ramp has already been in and has been having favorable results with wheelchair accessibility to the area where people gather for the picnic tables. Number 6, the curb ramp with access aisle between the parking spots as well. That's not going to be doable because of the roots of the trees and those types of things. So we're not going to do that. We think that the number 5 access gives you just as much access to the area that particular cutout would do. So I think that's something that we won't do at this time. The bridges, we have poured a ADA accessible path there, and the eastern wetlands, same thing as the western wetlands with no crush and run. That's not a travel surface. We'll do granite sand in there. So at this point, like I said, we're probably 75% what we're doing. We just got to do some refinements on the eastern and western wetlands, and then that project will be coming into full compliance. We do have, as part of some of the other projects that were completed, we put those ADA compliant type issues into those programs. So the additional ramp that goes up into the clubhouse, that'll be starting here shortly. Going into the firehouse, that also will be an ADA compatible path. The police station, we did complete putting in an ADA compatible service window as long with the old city courthouse, and the same thing will be going on into the renovations of the actual city hall. The roof project's long been done on all buildings, so we're good there. The equipment purchases have been completed, and the holiday lighting, I got an update the other day. All the lighting have been received overseas, and they're now constructing the lights. They have a tentative delivery date of the 1st of September for all the lights, so we should be in good shape to be able to display our lights. All of the poles have been refurbished. We still have to coordinate with Georgia Power. We had a lot of, one of the issues was they did not have GFCIs on the poles. So a lot of the 20, it was 11 of the actual boxes had shorted out because they weren't outdoor compatible boxes. Hey. And so then we got the path lighting down at, the path electrical boxes down at the beach house have been completed, so we don't have to have outdoor festivals anymore. Every one of the outdoor plugs now work. And then they're all GFCIs, they're all covered. So we shouldn't have it's a separate circuit for those. It won't interfere with any of the power in the beach house, which was part of the problem before, where they were tripping out. So we got that problem solved. We spoke about tennis court, community services. Chief and I have not really had anybody that seems like they would like to eliminate any of their community service hours, but we're still hopeful there. The Oak Drive project is 100% complete. We've, had several really good rain events, and we haven't had any problems. Notice because we don't, nobody said anything. Yeah.
I've had comments from residents, and they are thrilled
Thank
with
you.
the work.
I'm thrilled too. I went to a Public Works meeting and I showed that thing off, boy, like it was a new baby. I really like that. Task order number one. We've had an informal discussion with EPD on a buffer modification that will go hand in hand with that nationwide permit modification. Like I said, it was kind of off the record, but we kind of put things out there of what we would like to see, and we didn't get any pushback. All we got was encouragement. So we're going to schedule another informal meeting with the Corps simply because we don't know who we're going to be dealing with. So we kind of, easing into that one. But I know there was some concerns last time about cost. What we did was, as I told you before, we're thinking, two different options here, a structural option and a non-structural option. Non-structural options are probably going to be less expensive, but both in the non-structural option is going to be less expensive. The structural option, of course, will be a little bit more expensive because it entails quite a few other things, But both are going to have a maintenance component to them. And city manager and I had a brief conversation of how we are going to be trying to fund in perpetuity, because we own that creek, of how we were going to have to manage, maintenance and funding that going forward. And we kind of, like I said, had a informal conversation about that. But I kind of feel good about what we're putting forward, what could be approved, and how we can maintain it in the future. But the main thing is, I'm really hopeful about the minimal impact it would have on the funding that we have in order to construct either the non-structural or the structural improvement. And I think it gets us to number one, where we need to be as far as, lake level. And it also points us in the direction of what we want to do with maintaining both the eastern and western wetlands. Okay? So not ready to quite put this out yet. I think if we're going to look for something as far as a presentation, I'm kind of looking at October, to lay that out. But I want to make sure that from the funding standpoint, and like I said, we're going into budget and those types of things, that we're kind of solid there with the things that we want to recommend. So that's task order one. Street sweeping program. We budgeted and you approved $7,065 for that program. What we've done is we swept all 23 streets in the city, bumped the curbs and everything. We collected about 13 tons of sediment. We did all of that for around $3,500. So what we're going to do with the remaining money is we're kind of scheduled another sweeping right before the holidays, and then going into the beginning of next year, another sweeping. Now that'll coincide with leaf season, so we'll get an additional bang for our buck, not only with our vacuum machine, but also with the street sweeping. So we'll not only pick up the leaves that we can, but we'll also remove a lot of that sediment and in our gutters.
Great.
LMIG resurfacing program, as you know, we asked you guys to reject the bids. what we're thinking about is bringing those back at a reduced scope in order that we could fit those into what we budgeted in our initial proposal to you guys with the community investment program. So hopefully we'll have something for you guys to consider at the next work session. And by the way, what we kind of leaned on was the major, this kind of ties into the emergency management thing. Lakeshore, Spring, and Poplar are pretty much our designated emergency routes out of the city if some type of ice event happened. And those were, based on evaluation, those are the ones that are most need of resurfacing. Spring really needs it. So. One of the projects that are not on here, but it's in the STR, is the dam project. That project, as you can see, the dam itself has been devegetated, and so now we've scheduled the actual dam inspection was be August 18th and 19th. The dam specialist will be here to conduct that inspection, and what we hope to gain out of that is some type of direction on what would be needed, the condition of the dam, and to generate some type of cost estimates if there are any deficiencies, or is it just simply to gain consensus that that shoaling that is occurring at the toe of the dam just needs to be removed, and just armored with some riprap, those types of things. And we also, what I'm hoping also is to get a weight specification for equipment that'll go across the dam, and that'll tell us if for future use of what, how we can be able to clear the dam, what kind of equipment can be used, those types of things. The facility alarm monitoring, all of those have been completed. So right now we're just moving forward, putting the keypad locks on the facilities. The emergency generator replacement, as you can see, the old generator has been decommissioned and it is gone. We put it on Gov Deals. We got a whole $275 for that. I should have left the diesel in. I probably got more money, but at least, we didn't have to, rent equipment and those types of things to get rid of it. The firehouse renovation is complete. The pantry is moved in. We've nearly completed moving all of the storage files in back, and so far so good. Ms. Rachel and her group are pretty happy with the space that they have. We just got to make sure we can get them the access that they need when they need to go in. And the clubhouse and the Public Works building, the work has begun on that. Some of the flooring is in the bathroom, the kitchen, and the dressing room. The Public Works building itself has been shored up and is actually probably going to be scheduled to get painted this weekend. We're still waiting on the doors for the building, and hopefully by and the windows are coming in for the clubhouse. I would, first week in September, I think we're going to be complete with those two projects also. We've started, got everything out of the new city hall, and we're going to start work on that on Thursday. And I put that on there twice. But other than that, I think I didn't miss anything. And if you do have any questions, I am here. Oh, we have the Green Space Recreation Survey is online. as part of the Recreation Green Space Master Plan project. So we're going, hopefully get good feedback. Chief provided some of the previous questions that we had years ago, kind of helps out. And so we're gonna get some, hopefully, you can put that in the news blast, please, if we can get residents to participate in that survey, so we can get some good dialogue going back and forth there.
Maybe even just a designated e-blast just for that, so it doesn't get buried at all, and make sure that,
Yeah.
like with like the headline, take the survey.
I did send the city manager, and I know he forwarded to Mr. Kendrick, a copy of the Eco Arts
Yeah.
proposal
Mhm.
that
We did years ago.
we
And-
did, 3 or 4
Yeah.
years ago.
Yeah,
Um,
I forward that to the consultant,
That's
and
great.
so they're gonna wrap that into what we're, our discussion
Great.
and everything.
I
And
did
then-
have one question,
Oh,
though,
okay.
if I could.
Let me get one
Okay.
other thing.
Oh, sure,
out,
go ahead.
and then we'll go. Last meeting, we talked about, based on what the city of Milton was going through with obstructions in the right-of-way, so we're making plans to remove those 2 planters. The only reason they're not gone now is because we couldn't rent a piece of equipment sizable enough to remove those. So we were waiting on those, and plus the bollards that we were gonna use to replace those, seems like everybody bought those out, so they're on back order, so we're waiting on those, but otherwise it would have been gone. And you can see the last page, some of the, condition assessment, that picture there, paints a pretty good picture of what we found, that we continue to uncover when we get into these buildings. That floor in the kitchen, pretty much was about that much water in there when we got to it. And, when you walked in, you had this little aroma, and that's pretty much what was caused there. Yes, sir.
Yes, I had a question going back to task order number 1.
Yes, sir.
Back when we had our town hall meeting where you introduced the AECOM engineers, I asked a question about could we, without Corps of Engineers approval, clear the intake and outlet pipes to the flume, if you will, or sedimentation ditches where the intake pipe comes off the weir, as well as the inlet pipes from the flume to the wetlands, eastern wetland. And the answer from the engineer was, yes, we could do that. It was, yes, we could do that. It's on video. In any case, is there any reason we can't proceed with doing that?
Well, here, what we did, clear the pipe, and we have been getting consistent flow, because I've been monitoring, yes, I have. I've been monitoring the level of the lake. I measured both bridges, especially, after significant rain events. So yes, we have gone up, and at least one time since then, we have rammed the pipe out, and we have gotten more flow through that pipe.
You cleared the pipe?
Yes, but it's the sediment that keeps, it's literally like on a daily basis, because the creek is moving, the sediments and deposits, just keep flowing back into that single pipe there.
Which
Yeah.
is what he said. He said, yes, you can clear the pipe, but it's going to continue to happen
Yeah.
until you re-engineer it, because there's sediments that are suspended in the water, and the way the pipe is set, it's flowing in such a way that it's gonna continue to deposit, and there's not gonna be good flow.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I think it's both.
Yeah, if you've been looking at the lake, like right now, it is up.
Marginally,
Well,
yeah.
I kind of
That's why we're
gauge
doing
it
the
by.
project.
Huh?
Oh, I said that's why we're doing this project.
Right.
Yeah, I
Is to
get it.
I
solve
kind
it
of
long
gauge
term.
it by the
Yeah.
inflow. I've seen it and I have pictures of it where you can literally walk out on the shelf about 4 or 5 feet before you get to the edge of the lake. Like right now, you can't do that. It's back up at the edge of the pipe. And if, like I said before, when you look out at Little Turtle Island, there's a little rock there, and when it is, you know, down, you've got about 2 or 3 feet away from that rock. Right now, it is right up to the rock. Okay, so, you know, just visually looking at it, you have more water that is flowing into the lake. Now, what we're trying to determine is a couple of things that we're looking at, because there is a control structure that's downstream that basically modulates what the level of the lake is going to be. It fluctuates by probably about 4 to 6 inches. So if we're not gonna, the lake is only gonna go up so much. And that's,
I get it.
at that control point.
No, I get
Yeah,
that, I get
okay.
that. You know, incorporated in tonight's package is the 2021 comprehensive report.
Mhm,
There's a picture of the lake and the beach house there
mhm.
and where the water normally rests. We're still well below that point.
Okay.
And
I think, you know, I understand what you're saying, but some of this is, you know, visually how you want it to be. But, you know, I think we still got a healthy lake. I mean, we've got a lot of flora, fauna that's, you know, just continues to thrive in that spot. We've got people out there fishing, they're catching fish, you know, turtles all over the place, you know, birds all over the place. I think it's just, we got to just come to a decision on how much, or visually how we want the lake to look. Where are we going to settle on, you know,
The
that's it,
water
visually,
level.
Yeah, water level is going to be.
There's also a benefit of it not having as high of a water level as we saw with Helene last year. You know, it was able to receive a ton of stormwater and prevent a lot of the flooding that could have otherwise happened. So I think that would be a really interesting piece of input from the engineer, like how does AECOM, how does the lake as a reservoir play into, you know, what's the recommendation in terms of receiving stormwater, you know, as we're going through this whole process. And also the process, you know, just reiterating that going through the process of task order 1, task order 2, task order 3 is ultimately solving for the infrastructure issues, the long-term maintenance, and it's the process to get us there to make the repairs that need to happen.
So I have a couple things. One is all the projects that are being done, and just unplanned for walking down here and getting a tour of the firehouse.
Mhm.
Again, congratulations. I mean, there's so much stuff getting done
Thank you.
with that, and it's functional things. I, again, don't think we're necessarily doing as good a job as we can to let people know of those things. In terms of what I'm hearing about the water and the lake, to me, I don't think comparing to previous years is an apples to apples in terms of the lake level, because the creek has changed, the stormwater flow has changed because of Rockbridge Road being changed. What I'm hearing is we have a long-term and a short-term issue. The short-term is let's fix keep constantly spending money to clear the sediment out of the pipe.
Mhm.
The long-term is let's fix it so there's no sediment in the pipe. Is that sort of what that's what I'm hearing?
Yeah, yes.
Okay. I'm all for recognizing that what this is about is, for me, the long term. I don't know if I want us to be spending money right now on something that we're just going to have to constantly keep doing if it's not going to fix the problem.
Mhm.
In business, you don't keep throwing the same money at the same project over and over. Just my opinion. Other things I would be curious about is with the street sweeping and the curb bumping. There's one of our unofficial drains down by Wendy's house that one of the curbstones that covers it has been broken in half on Ridge and is in the culvert there. That's been there for about 4 or 5 years.
I'm not, who's?
On Ridge, where by Laurel, I believe it is. It's one of those unofficial drainages. and it's got curbstones covering it and going down into some sort of drainage thing.
I'll get with you tomorrow and
And
you can
I'll-
show me that, because
So
I don't know
it's-
who is Wendy. I don't,
It's the house that was where the filming was happening.
oh, down that way.
So it's
Okay.
across the street from her. There's a culvert that
Mhm.
is covered with some nice curbstones. One of those curbstones is broken in half and is in the culvert.
Okay.
So I don't know if that's something that causes an issue with water when it's coming in. Is that something that when the bumping is being done, that could be,
I'll
because they
check
would
on-
need a heavy vehicle to winch that out somehow.
I'll check on it tomorrow.
And I'm happy to show you where that is.
I think I know where you're talking about.
The other thing, and this is not really on any of these, we've talked a lot about fishing and the bridges and what we can and can't do. Is it, and this may be more for our city attorney, I'm a little, when I'm out walking and I see people going down the stones that used to be buffeting the bridges now, that are mostly knocked down, because people are walking down there to go fishing by the ground level by the lake. Can we extend a fence there? Because at this point, the stones are disappearing, and they're getting knocked into the lake, they're getting worn down, and that's all riprap that is protecting the structural integrity of the bridges.
Mhm.
And on both bridges, people are, if you go down there and people are fishing, they're going down a little path that's basically worn down and fishing at the lake level.
So now we want to.
So here's a berm,
Yeah,
they're
I know.
going down here,
Yeah.
and they're just creating a path that's wearing down and eroding and knocking down
So
the
we want to
rocks.
look at putting
So
fence.
I would.
Control structures with like some fencing and then some vegetation or something that just. keep
Some way to,
people from
and I
getting
think
down.
planting may be a way to do it that would be
Mhm.
inexpensive as compared to fencing, but again, I don't know legally if we're allowed to do that, because we can't necessarily say no fishing here, but if we plant things or block it in some fashion, one, that protects our investment on the bridges.
Okay.
Mhm. I think that should,
Um,
I'll
seems
take a
great.
look at it, yeah.
So,
I'll get with the city attorney.
I mean, if there's a question there, Councilmember Goldberg, the short answer is yes, you can do that. It just takes a budget proposal and a resolution by the council saying, yeah, we'll spend the money.
Cool. Thank you.
have other people seen that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
And it's just become, I mean, every time you see someone fishing, that's where they are.
Mhm.
So.
That's a really creative solution. Just block
I
it.
think we can do that without really necessarily spending a whole lot if we do a planting of some kind, something
Mhm.
pointed.
Yeah, it's
Sharp- sharp
blackberry
edges.
brambles.
I have a few mahonias you could have.
Yeah, great.
But again, thank you for all of the projects. I mean, I've been in to see Stephanie while she's over there working. You're off. I mean, it just, we've got things that, again, I don't think a lot of people know have been done. And it's creating a really, to me, a foundation of professionalism for our staff, one. But then also the service then that could be provided for our citizens. So I really commend you for all that. And I love hearing you boasting that is, you showed pictures like it's your baby.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, that's great.
Um,
Good job.
Did you have something? you
I have
wanted
two
to
quick things. One, we've got these columns, and there's one for approved costs, and thank you for putting the tariff in there. I think that'll get filled up and will be useful to point to later. We've got the approved costs, and I hate to give you more work, but especially the ones that are like 100% complete, if we could have a final cost,
Okay.
because I feel like you've done a really good job with project management and keeping us well below what we've been approved, and I would like to be able to point to that and
Okay.
say that
I
we've
got
done these 10 things and we've saved X amount of money.
Yeah.
Which also gives us another opportunity to boast about the efficiency of what's getting done.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And second, granite sand, can you tell me a little bit about that and how it's applied, just so I can?
It's like a finer, coarser. It's coarser than regular sand, but it's finer than crush and run.
Or gravel. It's like-
Yeah. And
Yeah.
crush and run has more, larger, and fines in it. But the granite sand is say like 90% fines, where crush and run is probably like 55%, that type of thing. And you just can't roll on it at Crusher Run, but granite sand is a little finer, but it also, shifts a little bit. That's why it has to be compacted a little bit more.
So we're gonna do like runners on the side to keep it in place? Is there anything that, what do we do to keep it in place?
We just compact it really well.
Mhm. Thank you so much.
Is that just at the entrance? 'Cause I mean, that's where the granite sand is on the western wetland,
Yeah,
right?
We need
Going further on, is it okay
yes.
to roll on?
Yes, we just ran into an equipment issue, why it didn't get feathered all the way back out and those types of things. Then the weather hit, and so it just, it just stopped what we're doing right at this point and wait till we get a little drier weather, and be able to do it correctly. When we started, had really good weather, then all of a sudden, we just started getting all this rain. And, just haven't been able to, once you get a couple, 2 or 3 days fair, then you're on to something else, and, you don't have the equipment available at that point in time.
I'm sorry, I may not have heard exactly what you said, but what I was asking is, are you putting granite sand all the way back to the end of the trail? You are?
Yes.
Okay, that's, sorry.
Mr. Kendrick, thank you so much. I counted, you've talked about over 30 projects that you've managed to accomplish in 7 months, which I think is a record of all of Pine Lake's history, coming up on our centennial in the next 15 years, 10 years. So thank you so much for this and for all of your work.
Thank you.
And then I think, you put it out here, it's in the agenda packet, it's in the strategic performance plan. Let's just to keep encouraging people, watch the YouTube videos we record, talk to your neighbors for those of y'all that are coming to our council meetings or watching them online. We can put out information, and I think we're doing a lot of information that's getting out there into the world, but there's also an onus on everyone to find the information and to be informed, if you care about the city. So keep doing that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, code compliance, public nuisances updates. Chief.
Well, we wanted to come and give you guys good evening. Wanted to give you guys a quick update on our code compliance. Code compliance, as you guys know, has been something that's kind of been like a sore thumb for us, figuring out what we want, what we expect, and what is gonna be the standard as far as Pine Lake is concerned for code compliance. Council's been doing their, and admin have been doing their part, which is to refine some of our ordinances that are on the book that will allow us teeth to execute and do our job. So I just want to give you guys a quick update. Status update. Last time we spoke, I advised you guys that we had that we had some active cases and that they were in process, going to court, had been issued notices of violations. So part of this project, what we decided to do was attack some of our more egregious locations, the ones that we're getting the most either complaints or concerns for. So at this point in time, we have 10 active code enforcement cases underway. We have 5 cases. 5 of those cases have advanced to municipal court. They appeared in court, I believe, last week. The judge issued them. Two were issued 30 days, and the other 60 days to comply, which means they will be ordered to reappear in court and show proof that they are in compliance. We have one of our property owners has already been in touch with Ned, and probably be something that Ned will be bringing to you guys in our next meeting, but to begin the demolition project. That's one of the properties that we've identified It's been vacant for quite some time. It is visibly dilapidated, and they were one of the cases that were active, that was in court, and that was given 60 days to comply. Also, we have 2 cases that have been granted extensions due to the circumstances that they had pending. And extension, we allow for extensions, as you guys know, and also the judge has the authority to issue an extension. So I believe one of them had to do with the resident was advising that it was a county issue. So when she appears in court, she'll be bringing documentation to show that the issue is in fact on the county. And this is one of our commercial properties with a huge hole in the gravel that prohibits people from parking. And it's, I believe, actually a tenant parking space. So she'll be able to supply, hopefully, or they'll be in violation. For upcoming inspections, our code compliance officer will be doing multi-unit dwellings for for August and September. So he's already scheduled to reach out to the property owners and the property management company and teams to address some of the concerns, because we've been getting a flurry of complaints from the apartment complexes having to do with safety, heating, cooling, trash pickup, and just overall maintenance. So he's going to be hitting them, you know, pretty hard. These inspections are focused to ensure ongoing adherence to health, safety, and property maintenance standard. The good part about it is that we have one property owner that has almost all of the properties here in Pine Lake. So that'll be a short list of people that we will be reaching out to. And that way, that standard goes across the line. So because you guys like pictures, what I wanted to do is, you can start at the top now, please. Unless this is the top.
He's been scrolling as
I
you're
know,
talking.
right? He's just giving it all away. This is one of the properties that we had on our reoccurring list. As you see, the front portion is overgrown and you can't see, and this has a lot to do with health and safety. You can see the end corner. You made a comment about those drainage areas. A lot of times when those are not maintained, like you see on this corner, it becomes like a choke spot.
Mhm.
And then these are the areas that you have pooling. Then a couple of years later, we all know water finds a way, and that's why we have a lot of cracking at some of our intersections and such. So if you scroll down there, please, you'll see what they're in process. It's a little more peekable. All of these are, I just went by and took some pictures of most of these today, just so you can see that these individuals are actively addressing some of these issues and concerns. Ned, if you can go down just a little more. This right here, I think I took a walk with a council member on this one, and some of the stuff I saw in there are, if you think the one on the left is bad, it gets even worse. It looked like there's some people had been in there. We found some paraphernalia and some other stuff. So who's to tell? It looked newer than older, but obviously that's an issue. We were looking at the outside, but with code enforcement, we went on property. We inspected the building itself. He was issued a citation. He's been in court, and he is on the 30-day list to update the property. So it probably won't be a mansion, but it will definitely be cleared out. As you can see, the right, that says in progress, where he's gotten rid of some of the shrubbery. If you know that particular property, you know, right at the corner, it's really difficult to see when entering the roadway. So and I think there's a pothole in the middle. So you're kind of zigzagging up the street, hoping that you don't hit whoever's coming off that road on, what is it? It's not Grove, but you know what's that. Okay.
Iris.
Thank you.
It's Iris.
Iris. Ned, okay. This is just another view of the property. You can see the dilapidated fence. You can see all the overgrown shrubbery. And he's obviously taken this serious and has been working diligently on clearing the property. Okay. This right here, oh man, I wanted a better picture of this, but this was right here on Rockbridge Road in plain sight. This was one of our Troy properties, and it had changed hands, and it seemed like the property owner was absolutely invisible. I did a walkthrough, and there was some people living in there. Two of the individuals that were at the intersection of Rockbridge and South Harrison were actually living in there. Folks that wasn't inside, I guess they slept on a mattress that was outside, and it was difficult to even walk down Rockbridge, that in front of that property from Aberdeen to the city of Pine Lake, because it was so overgrown. If you look at it now, I think, Gene, you and I had a conversation about the Poplar side of that, where it was just overgrown. So they've since cleared all of that out. We finally was able to hand deliver and reach out and get in touch with the property owner. I had to put some miles on the car, not a lot, and made contact with the new owner. He immediately brought in a dumpster, cleared out the front yard, tossed the unhoused folks that were in there. And I think they didn't actually live there. I think that they were sleeping in there, and that was about to become a party house, for lack of a better word. So those are some of our huge code enforcement strides that we've made. Pretty excited about that. And as you know, with our new compliance officer, what comes next? What comes next is we're gonna meet up with the city manager and provide our next step for doing an assessment of the city. And we'll be looking at some of the concerns that you guys have discussed in previous meetings as far as what is gonna be our priority. And then I'll have him present that to council, and then, you know, we'll pay him for his services, and then we'll be ready to continue to rock and roll. And hopefully these pictures will keep coming.
Great. Thank
Nice
you,
progress.
Chief.
No problem.
Wonderful.
Thanks, Chief.
What
Yeah.
are photos cheesy?
No,
Okay.
that's super helpful to get eyes on what you're speaking to. So thank you so much for your work in this. I'm glad you finally have an ordinance that has some teeth to be able to put this into effect, and you were able to recruit a pretty amazing code compliance officer to assist in this effort. So keep up the good work. This is wonderful progress in a short amount of time. Yeah. All right, residential and commercial property assessments. This is a topic brought forth by Councilmember Goldberg and the city managers. I don't know. Yeah, city manager. Here we go.
Councilmember Goldberg doesn't mind, I'll kick it off. And I know all of you are sensitive and even passionate about this issue, but Councilmember Goldberg, I think one of the first questions he ever asked before I started was, what about your relationships with county offices? And I noticed it's one that he was referring to. And I mean, I have established a pretty sound relationship with the Tides Commissioner's office, less so at this point, with the authorities on the actual assessments themselves, but I also know that he has a relationship. But over the months that I've been here and the continuing discussions that I've had with Councilmember Goldberg in particular and Councilmember Ramsey, my thought to Councilmember Goldberg was, if it's time for the council as a body to at least, I don't want to say sound the alarm, but at least start to share your concerns. For the purposes of kind of kicking off the discussion, I wanted to make sure that we were grounded in understanding property assessments that really start from the standards for establishing fair market value found in state statutes in the state of Georgia. So that first piece is just pure pulling from the state's website, followed by pulling from DeKalb County's website on the scientific aspects of property assessments and how they are done. And it is a fairly scientific process, and the people involved, namely the Board of Assessors, that establishes fair market value from which the 40% tax assessments are based. And, you know, the academic and experience requirements that go along with it, along with the appeal process for property assessments, and empowered through the Board of Equalization. And again, those experience and/or academic standards that are required for board members, along with the basic science of evaluating appeals. And as appeals go, one of my observations at this point is that it's probably somewhat one-sided. I saw very little that indicated where entities beyond the property owners themselves who would be complaining on the opposite side of our own observations and analysis. So it's kind of a one-sided issue from my assessment, and the conversation that I've had with City Attorney Botch. I know that he has been involved in some issues countywide with assessments that, again, as I understand it, involve these various governmental offices being somewhat under the gun for why are their assessments as high as they are. And it's not specific to Pine Lake necessarily. So I don't know how often, to be honest, this level of analysis that some of our council members have undertaken, and where those types of issues and concerns are brought before these various boards of assessors and boards of equalization. So that's kind of the educational standpoint, and I'll turn it back over to the mayor and any comments that council members may want to share. But what we included in the agenda, Pike, and I don't want to speak for Council Member Goldberg, is his continuing monitoring and analysis of commercial residential properties in particular, and how they contrast so with what the property owners from just a non-commercial standpoint, what they've endured and how property values have increased. On the one hand, something positive in terms of property values, but what comes with that are tax burdens on our residents, so much so that you're considering a study on how we might be able to provide some relief to some of those neighbors. So I'll stop there and turn it back over to the mayor and the council for any thoughts, and if you have any inclination of perhaps a resolution that might come before the board that we could send to the county. I'm not sure what that would consist of, but sometimes even an inquiry or asking for a better understanding or even a presentation or a conversation could be one of the things that come out of the discussion.
Thank you, City Manager. Councilmember Goldberg. I'd love to-
One thing I do want to stress is, as I was doing my quadruple checking of the spreadsheets I've created, the DeKalb County webpage went down for 3 weeks for maintenance and updates. So I'm like 99% sure this is all good, but I like to really do my due diligence. I think just a 1,000-foot view of this, when I look at these different tables, as a homeowner, I sure would like to have not had my appraised value change since 2019, which many of these apartment buildings have not had their value changed since 2019. And so just from a layperson's perspective, I'm like, really? Like, how is that possible? That tells me nothing is being done.
Well, let me give you some additional background, Councilmember Goldberg. In 2019, Stonecrest Mall, as a putative class representative, filed a class action lawsuit against DeKalb County and all of the constituent cities in DeKalb County, alleging that the tax assessor's office has been systemically misappraising commercial properties, particularly properties that had filed tax appeals, and then not allowing that property to have its 3-year freeze following that tax appeal. So the fact that there are not increases in the appraised value since 2019 is probably directly related to the existence of that lawsuit. I can't guarantee it because I've not talked to anybody at the law department, but my spidey senses as a lawyer is saying those two things are not disconnected.
Well, again, as a layperson, that would have been lovely if my home was not reassessed in 2019, because it's been reassessed every single year.
Yes, sir.
And it's only been going one way. So we've actually had some where the land value has actually decreased in those 6-7 years of that. What really caught my attention, though, was when one of these units was being sold, and the asking price and then the sales price was over $150,000 more than the assessed value. That, it's incomprehensible to me.
Yeah, what the assessor's office will tell you in response to that question, Councilman, is that fair market value as assessed or as appraised by a property appraiser is not the same thing as an arm's length sales transaction. We've had this argument in DeKalb County for 20 years that I'm aware of with the assessor's office, that they ought to do a better job of catching sales data and using sales data to drive assessments, and they steadfastly refuse to do it.
So that confuses me, because as a homeowner, that's what I'm told my assessed value is based on, is comparable sales.
Yes, sir. I don't disagree
So
that that's what
that doesn't apply to commercial properties?
they don't apply sale data for the purchase of any property, whether it's commercial or residential. Where the use of comparable sales data is used to assess another property, those are historic numbers. They are not current numbers. So if there's, and I am not an assessor, I am not a property expert, I am trying to explain and translate the arcane language of that area into language that makes sense to ordinary folk like me. Because I guarantee you that in Fulton County, if you have a sale next door to my house, I will see an increase on my property values equal to what that sale price was.
Yes.
Okay? So Fulton is a wholly different universe. DeKalb, for whatever reason, has routinely taken the position that they are not bound for assessment or appraisal values of property by the arm's length transaction of a sale of that property in the same tax year where the appraisal is done. I can't explain why that is beyond saying that's their answer when you ask that question.
So the process is convoluted, unfathomable to me how it works or doesn't work. What, to me, nuts and bolts is, I just, again, I haven't looked at comps for what like buildings would be appraised at. When I just see a trend of years upon years of no value change, that's a pattern that says something's not working. So what I'm really hoping is, what can we do as a city? What can we request? What are our tactics to try to get this alleviated so that some of this tax burden that is on our homeowners is being balanced out by equitable tax assessments and appraisals on commercial properties? And I haven't even looked at commercial properties like businesses up on Rockbridge. I would just extrapolate that the likelihood is the same thing's probably happening.
If I could answer that question before Councilmember Ramsey
Sure.
Jumps in and asks his question, please. The short answer to your question is that the administration could approach the assessor's office and ask them to to prepare and present a educational 20-minute talk to the council at a work session about how and why they do what they do. And they could be here, and we could prep them in advance that the council has these questions that we want you to address or be prepared to address when you show up to speak to the council. They have done that for other cities in DeKalb at request. I do not know if the same appraiser is there who was there 3 years ago, but I believe that they are the chief appraiser is the same person. So that would not be a unique request coming from a city council saying, please help us understand what's going on. DeKalb County, as of week before last, has a new county attorney. I can certainly reach out to my colleague and get his opinion and his staff's opinion about what the current rules are about what the assessor's office is doing with commercial properties. And if my suspicion is correct, that the existence of this pending lawsuit concerning potentially all commercial properties in the county is what has frozen values as of 2019. So I can get that answer hopefully in the next 10 days. The third thing that you have the ability to do is, because the code sets up the assessor's office and the commissioner's office and the board of commissioners as wholly independent of one another. They're not independent in the same way that the sheriff's office is independent from the board of commissioners. But there's no political control over how the assessor's office does their job or how the tax commissioner does their job of collecting the dollars once the millage rates are passed by all the taxing entities. The independence of those entities is there to ensure a lack of political influence on those processes. So the best that you can hope for in this conversation with the assessor's office is informational. There's not going to be, they're not going to listen to, we want you to do X, because they don't have to listen to you because of the state statutes. The third thing I will make sure that you're aware of is that the county has taken the position for at least the last 10 years, and I think for the last 20, that all commercial property in DeKalb County is the same regardless of where it is. So commercial property that is in Dunwoody is the same is looked at as though it were in unincorporated Southwest DeKalb. There's no functional difference as far as how that property is to be assessed from the assessor's office. They take that position because the Constitution says that like property has to be assessed the same, not similarly, the same. And I can't cite you the constitutional provision that holds that, but there is authority for that position. It is easily said that property that is in Dunwoody is not the same that is property that is in Stonecrest, or property that is in Avondale is not the same, or should not be assessed the same as property in Pine Lake, because as we all know, all property is local. But the assessor's office has never taken that position as a legal position, even though almost every other county in the core metro area does so. So it's unlikely that you could change that legal interpretation, and unless the county attorney's office got involved in some way of forcing that change, which is unlikely as well, then you're going to stay with that same system of evaluation of property. That's a long-winded explication to say that you basically have two avenues of discussion that I believe exist for you. One is to ask for additional information and to get some of these questions answered from subject matter experts. The other avenue of expression you have is working with DEMA and the other cities in the county to try to get a more global participation of the cities on this topic, so that all of the cities are speaking with one voice on this topic, to see if there's any basis upon which there can be some movement and some additional change. It is unlikely that's going to be successful, but each city going on its own and undertaking that debate with the assessor's office is just going to be met with crickets, in my experience.
Thank you. So
I'm
it
sorry,
sounds-
Councilman Ramsey, I
Do you still have?
Thank you,
question?
thank you. I think one of the first things we could do is look at commercial property in surrounding cities, apartment buildings in Decatur, Avondale, Clarkston, et cetera, and see if the trend is the same. It would be easy to pull that out of the same GIS system where we pull this information. That would be number one, to see if things are being treated differently or not. But number two, if we look at just the first page here that Councilmember Goldberg has shown us with these tables on 4672 and 4680 Ridge, both of these have sale prices in 2015, same day, of 806 900. Yeah, it was a group sale. I get that. And we look at that number versus the current 100% appraised value. We could calculate what the city of Pine Lake is actually losing in tax revenue on an annual basis for each of these properties that could form the basis of a discussion with the county in terms of, you know, we don't want to take legal action, but don't force us. But we have real losses, and here they are. You know, if this were a residential sale, you can be assured that they may not be required to, but that new homeowner is not going to be paying taxes based on what the previous owner was paying. He'll be paying taxes in the year following the sale based on his purchase price, as Playa Homes should be paying. So I think there are some actions we can take to gather more information on both the surrounding cities, and I mean, we can honestly calculate what the loss is on each of these properties in each of the last 5 years to the city.
And then on my side, I've added it to my list of agenda items to follow up with our commissioner in our next meeting. And then in the next meeting that I have with the CEO, I'll also bring that up. And I know that there's a group of council that are getting ready to go to the annual meeting of the DMA. So that could be another great place to just start talking to other cities and see if this is an issue that they're experiencing. And like Attorney Balch said,
And I did mention this in my meeting with Commissioner Johnson.
Great.
So again, as an example, the 4589 Orchid, which was totally renovated. When my home is totally renovated, the assessment takes into account the renovation and changes the appraisal. The 2025 appraisal, the work was all done in 2023, 2024. Appraisal reflects nothing, that the apartment was gutted, the apartment building, and renovated.
Yeah, it seems clear to me there's obviously a disparity happening. I don't think that's refutable in any way, shape, or form. It sounds like the next steps are potentially looking into having a presentation from the assessor's office to council during a work session. Attorney Balch is going to follow up to find out if the value, the frozen values are related to the active lawsuit, if that's something that's experiencing. I think there's a proposal to look at the other cities and what if the trend is true there. From the data, I'll follow up with with our commissioner, and then look at the other cities at the DMA to see if they're experiencing
Sorry,
something
can
similar.
I just have a question.
Mhm.
Going back to the city manager's information in the strategic performance report, under state of Georgia property assessments, this 3 possible ways. I guess I would ask you, Attorney Balch, this income approach, is that used anywhere? Is it used for, I've never heard of that, and I don't know what that's about, but in regular commercial, like on the commercial corridor or in apartments, have you ever heard of that being used? And is that, I just am surprised to see it.
I routinely use, or the appraisers I hire in litigation routinely use the income method to evaluate both business revenues and business losses as well as property values. So yes, the income method is used to bring the future value of an income stream to present value for purposes of appraised value. Whether or not DeKalb's assessor's office uses that method to evaluate rental properties, I couldn't begin to tell you.
So I
Because
think
the answer you get is like somebody speaking Pig Latin and Russian and Klingon and trying to tell you how to bake cookies.
So, if I could, one of the things, and it's not clear to me, but when I'm did research on this, and I included that, it's called the RNCLD, which is replacement cost loss, replacement cost new less depreciation, and then the base RNC, which is that's one of the factors that DeKalb County looks at to determine the property's value. Don't really understand what it means or how they come up with that, because it doesn't really equate to what the appraised values are. But I included that in the header for each of the spreadsheets, the base RNCLD and the total RNCLD.
I think that could be included
there-
in that presentation when we send a list of questions.
Right, we need to add,
Let's have
we
some-
need to include, what of those 3 methods go into the calculation? Because income method could probably come up with a very different answer than anything having to do with valuation or sales or anything like that.
So one is, I appreciate City Manager Hawthorne and bringing this up. This was just sort of my curiosity. It has been rather time-consuming. So if anyone is interested in continuing in terms of expanding where we research, I would love some help, because I can't tell you how many hours I have spent doing this. And it's data, it's public knowledge. You just key in an address, you do the search. The other thing I was also trying to find, which is not easy to find, is sale price, because a number of these have been sold, which is just, again, another piece of information. So every unit but 2 is owned by the same owner in Pine Lake. I do also want to say, in the concern for making sure we have some balance with that, it is, my other concern with that is also it's low-income housing and what impact, knowing the person who owns these, my guess is that's going to get straight passed on to those residents. So I'm sort of feel like I'm in a quandary a little bit because I want to help support that because I think that's important to Pine Lake, but I also don't think we're getting what should be coming to us as a city in terms of tax revenue.
That's an important consideration.
I think those residents are not charged low-income housing prices. I believe that those prices have gone up in relation to the rest of Atlanta pricing, regardless of what we are charging them. So I think that he's kind of double dipping here. It feels like in paying lower taxes, but still charging more as if his own personal costs are going up, and they're not. So I don't think we should let that bother us or worry us.
Also, without improvements to those properties, the given conditions,
Exactly.
I think the market is gonna limit what they are rentable for.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I think we have some really good action items, so I'm gonna move us on to public comments. Thank you, Councilmember Goldberg, for your research there and the time that you've put into this. I know this is an important issue to citizens here, so. Any public comment? All right, seeing none, let's move on to reports and other business. Councilmember, or City Manager Hawthorne.
Mayor, in the interest of time, and the chief and Mr. Kendrick and myself having the opportunity to go over at least portions of what we had captured in the strategic performance report, you've discovered and probably knew it long before me that we have a clever, innovative, fun writer, and in part to address a point that Council Member Goldberg, we will never get to the point of getting people to pay attention enough to be as up to date as we are, but we should still try. And I gave the update on the classification and pay study, and even at those sessions today, I explained to staff, along with that study will be my recommendation to the council on realignment of administration in effect and the multiple hats that will continue in part, but doing it in a way that people can start to focus on things that we really need as well. And strategic communications is something that's very important to me. And so I started to have those conversations with our acting city clerk of that role. And I want him to share with you some exciting things that he has started to look at, and some of them even he's planning to recommend as early as the next meeting, that I think start to get at the heart of not only technology but communication and outreach to our neighbors, and even from a governing standpoint, bringing the information that we give to you in a better organization and way that you can access it and find it easier. So with that, I'd like to introduce Mr. Dagenhart to talk about his portion of the report, and then we'll be done.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Very kind. I'm not going to read directly from this, and you've all seen it. But I do want to lead with the audio stuff, because I don't want you to think that that's been totally fallen off the back of the back burner. So I mentioned in an email to the governing authority last week that we have a couple new, I don't want to call them new vendors yet, but at least points of contact through my fellow clerk in Avondale Estates. It's interesting because also a small town, they kind of have a similar, like, hey, we had this resident who was interested in helping us out, and so we let, kind of thing. So they've had kind of a lukewarm response to the work that was done on their own AV stuff for their Board of Commissioners, space. So somewhat helpful in that Katrina was able to give me like a bunch of people to talk to. Also not very responsive group of people, unfortunately. Kind of par for the course with our current preferred vendor. That's another thing I want to segue to real quick, is that with Quality Communications, there is, I don't want their lack of responsiveness to necessarily color the whole situation. They are a professional group. They did what I asked them to do, which was put together a quote with detailed information as to what we're going to be buying, and they sent out multiple people to talk to me and didn't stop until I was satisfied with the kind of equipment that they were putting forward with us. So I'm interested, and of course this is a greater conversation, but I'm interested in hearing about what these other vendors have to offer. Councilmember Ramsey also recommended, and it's a good recommendation, going directly to some of these suppliers to do at the very least some cost comparison. That's my focus with talking to other vendors, is to see, is this a fair, is $4,700 gonna get us what we want, and is that an appropriate cost for what we want? Unfortunately, it would involve surplusing what we have. Quality Communications was not interested in receiving the equipment back, which was unfortunate. But so that's where I'm going with this, is to try and figure out, is this a fair price? Is this the right equipment? What do other people have to say about this equipment? And then kind of moving forward, because I really don't want to get to November and be like, we don't like this either, it doesn't work either, kind of thing. We want it to stick this time and make everybody happy.
Great. Thank you.
Question?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have any of these vendors actually seen the space?
These new ones that I'm hoping to talk to, no, they have not communicated back to me.
Only Quality has seen the space?
Only Quality has seen the space, yeah, that's correct.
You might want to share some of the YouTube videos of our council meetings with the new vendors.
Sure.
And maybe with Quality too, so they can actually see the issues or hear the issues.
Yeah.
And, see and hear. See how close people are to the mic or aren't to the mic, that type of thing. But see and hear the issues. And is it reasonable for us to ask for a performance guarantee? See and hear what we need, but we want you to stand behind what you give us. If it doesn't work, take it back and help us make the improvement.
Right. Don't just make the
don't just
sale,
say,
actually focus on
"We're done."
making us happy. I absolutely agree. Yeah. I think that's a great recommendation. I'll approach the other vendors about actually visiting the space. I'll provide them with links so they can kind of see what I'm talking about. Because I think one of the more frustrating issues is that there's such a disparity in the quality. I'll watch one portion of a video and it's like, this sounds great, and all that, and then it falls off. So there's something weird. So getting more opinions, I think, would be very helpful. Okay, moving on from the audio stuff. This is really cool, Civic Plus. So earlier this year, the city manager brought up that the agenda process that we have is very antiquated. Having in this case, this is a pretty, light agenda, and it's still something like 60 pages or so when one-sided. So we've had 100+ page agendas. It's very frustrating. We can tell for you guys to be flipping through trying to find whatever we're going to. So one of the solutions that the city manager recommended was that we look into kind of these smart agendas that other cities employ, where if you're at least looking at a digital version of it, you can just click into an item and it'll take you right to all the supplemental information. Obviously doesn't change anything with the printed hard copy that everybody will still be supplied with, but if you have your own personal technology that you can bring to a meeting, it might make things a little bit more smoother with getting right to the item that you want to discuss.
Great.
So that's where it all started. Civic Plus offers a bunch more stuff, and it's really, really cool. So the website redevelopment is another thing that's been talked about as long as I've been here. The information on there is kind of contradictory. The user interface is really clunky and like a 2004 website. No offense to anybody that like designed it. It seems like it came straight from WordPress or something like that. So it's great for complying with what the state wants you to do when it comes to a local government website, publishing minutes and agendas and things like that, and notices of tax increase, what have you. But it's not engaging. So that was what I've had a couple different conversations with Civic Plus representatives over the past couple weeks, and they're totally understanding of where we're coming from. So I included a little screenshot of Port Orange, Florida on the SPR. That was the website that Austin, I think was his name, pointed me to. It's kind of the one that they show and tell about what their basic website will look like and do. So I definitely recommend, I put the link in the SPR so you can click on it on the digital version. I recommend going to that website and just playing around. It'll give you an idea of what our website could look like. Also included in the basic website package is a newsletter module. I mentioned that as well. Kind of similar to the website. The current eBlast is informational, right? The content is not an issue. It's the format. It's just not very engaging. And so again, looking at ways that we can make it pull people toward information and they don't have to go through bullet points to find something that might be pertinent for them. I use a example of tennis court update could be like in a little tennis ball off to the court. You know, it can look engaging. It can look fun. And then so the agenda module, it's a separate thing from the website. Website includes newsletter, and they also have like a basic notification service. I'd want to learn more about that. I gather that it's a text pushing service, which would be really interesting. The agenda module is separate, kind of started this whole thing. One really cool thing that I loved that Austin told me about was that when you develop the agenda, it integrates with the live stream that's embedded into the website. So the live stream will pull up a glossary of the agenda. When I develop my minutes, okay, let's say because I, like you guys, would be clicking into each item to take notes on what the conversation consisted of. When I click item 3, it'll timestamp it so that when somebody goes to the embedded live stream the next day or whenever, they can see, oh, I just want to hear about what's going on with the wetlands. Okay, well that's item 3, and I can click item 3 and it'll take me right to minute 48 where they start talking about the wetlands.
Cool.
So it's really cool.
That's super cool.
I'm gonna stop there. I think you get the gist of it.
Thank
it's really
you.
exciting. Take a look at the cost proposal. It's broad. I just asked Austin because we have a meeting Thursday to talk about more detailed quote. I said, can you just give me a ballpark that I could present to the honorable mayor and council? $3,000 to $6,000, kind of a wide range. Right now we spend about $1,850 a year on the website and newsletter. To me, it seems like, okay, if we're already spending about $2,000 and we could spend as little as $3,000 annually for something far superior and more engaging, I mean, that's up to you guys to decide whether that's worth it or not.
So a couple things. This Civic Plus is the people who bought MuniCode. So they are trying to be an all-encompassing one-stop shop for cities. The live streaming, if you look at what Avondale does, it's on their web page. It's not through Zoom. It's not through YouTube. It's on their web page.
Yeah.
The usability for Ned, for you to get in there and update the web page instead of sending a text or an email or a phone call to VC3 and hope they get to it in a couple days, you could actually be doing that.
Right. In addition to all of these fun things, there's portals for different users. So I would have a portal that allows me to change anything with the website. You all would have a portal where you can go into your electronic copy of the agenda, take margin notes, highlight things, click, all that fun stuff, and then when you come into the meeting, all your notes are there. What was the question I wanted to ask Chris about whatever. You can click in and there's all your notes for it.
Very cool.
So it's just
Thank
exciting
you.
stuff. Yeah,
I
of
appreciate
course.
your enthusiasm on this as well and your research. Thank you.
It's great stuff.
I'm glad you like it.
One final item that I'd like the police chief to give you a quick update on.
Okay.
Again, I know we're running kind of late, but I feel like I'd be remiss not to officially, for the record, mention that, as we all know, August 11th, 2005, tragedy came to our doorstep. That's when the first time in the history of our cityhood, we lost an officer in the line of duty. I think it kind of shook us all. I think it took a piece of safe from us. You know, we know where we are, we know what the world is like, and that was fractured that day, and I think it got real. And I just want to say that, you know, not as often as I'd like, you know, but I always try to keep in touch with the family and reach out to them. We acknowledge them at the memorial in DeKalb County every year when we acknowledge all the rest of our fallen officers. And as you could imagine, this week was a little, you know, it was really super different because once again, as we kind of wind down to that point, we had chaos just erupt that Friday before. And again, it hit home because we have so many people that work at the CDC in Pine Lake. It's right up the street. Our officers responded. Jeff was on site. I mean, how real is that? Tim just happened to go home for a nap that day. I mean, are you freaking kidding me? So once again, I'd be remiss not to mention, and just, you know, something that we just, you know, continue to always keep their family, you know, in our prayers. And remember, that young man was 25 years old. That is it, with 2 children. And we were left here to kind of pick up the pieces and continue on. And, you know, the city manager kind of always looks at us really weird, like, why y'all still here? But I think that that's part of the reason, you know. And just to remind you, on August the 27th, I think, it only took 2 years, 2016, it only took 10 years and an act of Congress signed by the then sitting president, Barack Obama, signed into law the official renaming of the post office. It's not something that's usually done for law enforcement. It's usually reserved to military. And we had a ceremony. We had an officer that he flew all the way to Virginia to get the family. And we had, you know, 3 administrators. That's how long it took, just standing there in support with our local and county government to acknowledge and to remember. So I just want to say thank you for the people here. I think Jeff's he's weird like us, you know, he's gonna call and remember something like that and say, you know, like, we're thinking about you guys, don't forget to mention that. So we appreciate that. And just to bring everything full circle in terms of appreciation, we got a lot of stuff that happens day to day that gets real regular that we don't even think to mention. And I don't want to continue in that vein. I want to be purposeful and with the spirit ushered in, kind of like by our new city manager, of acknowledgement and appreciating the people and the staff. I just wanted to make a special official note. I wrote a commendation letter to our Lieutenant Palms. We had a court incident that occurred where an individual had, so we had security, so stashed his gun in the bushes. And we know how people are walking or playing in the grass or walking in the dirt, and just a quick response to reach out to a canine unit and have him come, detain the gentleman, and we were able to locate the weapon. So that was something that could have easily just blown up, you know, in our faces. So I just want to do just a better job of just kind of letting people know, giving people their flowers, and reminding you guys and even reminding them of their worth. So I'm gonna give this to Ned. I signed it to be placed in Lieutenant Palm's, official folder file. So
Thank you, Lieutenant Palms.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you, Chief. Okay, great updates. As always, the strategic performance report is just getting better and better, so thank you, City Manager, for that, and for all of the contributions of staff. I have no comments. Let's move on to council comments, if there's any.
All right. So, Councilperson Goldberg and I are going to be starting a community chat series, basically just like come get some coffee and talk to us about
Great.
the issue. And so we're trying to start this Saturday. And we're going to be talking about what it's like running and being on council
Great.
for anyone who is interested. So we're going to try to do that. And we're going to try to do it monthly, I believe we talked about, Jeff.
Wonderful.
Just as a little, let's have some coffee and talk to our neighbors.
Thank you.
In addition to that is the Pollinator Festival is next weekend. And so come by and check that out. That'll be a neat little Pine Lake thing to do.
Is it on Saturday or Sunday?
It's the Saturday, and it's not the Pollinator Festival. I'm sorry, it's the
Okay.
It's the census, isn't it?
the census. Yes,
okay,
the
Pollinator
Pollinator
Census.
Census.
Cool.
It'll be at the Beach House. I think
Saturday.
2 p.m.
Not this upcoming Saturday, but the following one?
Yes.
Okay. Great.
And Pride Lake is September 13th. And if anybody wants to help, email me at pridelake@gmail.com.
Great. Thank you. Any other council comments?
I'll just share briefly. One is I had a experience this past week at the CDC that was terrifying and brought to light again just a reminder to, one, appreciate the people in your life and not take that for granted, and take a moment when you wake up in the morning that you did wake up that morning. We heard gunshots. We were leaving the building. I had run a training program with 70 CDC staff, and all we heard shots. We didn't hear any alarms or information. It was just run. And we did, and we found a room. We found another room, and then I said, "There's a hallway back there. Go back there." And we started barricading doors. And 4 hours later, we found more people, and it was incredible chaos, and we didn't hear much about what was going on until about 3 hours later through the news, not through information getting to us. And this is the CDC. They got their stuff together. And yet, it was still chaos.
Yeah.
The way we were alerted, besides the gunshots, is one of our participants literally walked past the shooter as he was dropping his duffel bag and pulling out his rifle, and she texted one of us.
Wow.
You never know. You just never know. So one is appreciate everything you and your officers do. While we are running away, you all are running too. I can't imagine what that takes as a human being to do that. So I'm really just grateful and thankful, because there was hundreds of responders from God, at least 10 different police departments and agencies represented. And we're still finding out more. Like, at first we just heard it was just a few shots. Now it's 180 shots. 5 buildings were hit.
Wow.
The positive, and I try, it's sometimes not easy to look at the good in everything. He could have targeted people. He targeted the buildings. He had ample opportunity to kill people. He did not, other than the officer who confronted him and lost his life. So one is, I appreciate that you sent something representing the city and all of us to the condolences. I don't know if there's going to be any, when there's an official thing, if you could notify us, because I certainly want to be there for that. Just for me, not for the city. And, you know, we live in a tight little community, but yet things can happen very easily that, so the idea of hearing about a way to get a push text system set up, it's like, yes, yes. So, that's one of the reasons I moved here, is because I felt like I know people, I got people's back, they got mine, and it's very unique and rare that you have that in somewhere you live. So, again, thank you for your officers. Please pass that on from me to your team every day.
Thank you. All right, information for the news blast. We've got, the one thing I have is the survey for the Green Space Master Plan, the pollinator census, Pride Lake, if those aren't in there already. Always putting the strategic performance report. Yeah, Mr. Kendrick.
Put on there that the trail will be closed on August 18th to 19th for the dam inspection.
The back.
Yeah.
The back berm.
asphalt trail.
Okay.
So so the 18th and 19th I did, okay, so I will put in there the trail is closed.
Great.
Will it be blocked off?
Yes.
Okay. It looks great, by the way.
Mm.
And the reason I say that, we blocked it off when they were out there cutting, and it was 10 people kept trying to go through there.
And we're surprised.
Like, you didn't mean them, just meant everybody else.
They're special.
Great, thank you. Is there a motion to adjourn?
I move that we adjourn.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Great work tonight, y'all. Thank you. Yes. Yeah, I have a thing at 9, and then I have a thing at like 12, so, yeah. 10? They have a 10. Is that all right? Banjo? Okay, let me put in the thing. Okay, it's only a 9:30 thing, so.